There's a new Zelda and mana-inspired title coming to the Game Boy and Game Boy Color with a Kickstarter that just launched. Let's check out Last Crown Warriors. Last Crown Warriors from Light Games hit Kickstarter just a few days ago, and for some reason, it just instantly caught my attention. It is a top-down action title that instantly screams Legend of Zelda, but the game is trying to do its own thing with that aesthetic. The Kickstarter is describing it as the very first action tactics title to ever be on the Game Boy, blending elements of action RPG combat with real-time strategy. There's a demo to download that unfortunately only includes one level and about 5 minutes gameplay loop with 3 different characters. The basic idea of the title is shown off in this demo where you fight waves of baddies in combat that is very familiar to anyone who has played Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, and try to capture 3 enemy bases before fighting a boss. When you first drop into the demo level, you'll see 3 arrows pointing in different spots of the screen. As you head that way, monsters begin spawning and you'll arrive at a little square with a flag in the middle. Your goal at this spot is to fight every monster that spawns as the little flag slowly lowers with every one you take down. Once it drops, a bigger baddie will appear, fight this mini-boss and win, the base becomes yours and the flag changes. You'll then do this for the other bases. While you're doing this, you may hear a little sound alert and notice a little skull towards the base you just conquered. This means more enemies are spawning there and you're trying to take it back. You now have to make the difficult decision to either keep pushing forward or go back and put those enemies in their place. If you do all 3 quick enough and maintain control of all 3 bases, you then fight the level boss. It is extremely addictive gameplay, so much so that I was kind of bummed that there was only 1 level to try, and especially since I can complete this cycle fairly quickly. I would imagine that as the game progresses, it would be a little more complicated than this teaser, but even if it doesn't change that much, I can see a lot of people trying to beat their best scores over and over again. You do have 3 different characters to use in this demo though, each with their own weapon and sub-weapon. Lillian is the main protagonist currently, and they use a sword that makes the sprite look even more like Link, and their sub-weapon is a flower. I never exactly understood what the flower did. It says it lures enemies, but they didn't seem to do that much. The knight uses a whip, and their sub-weapon is a boomerang that paralyzes enemies, and the skeleton named Boney was the last character in this demo who appears to just swing a giant bone, and has bombs as a secondary weapon, which is super useful. They all are basically exactly the same though, outside of their sub-weapon. None of their main weapons changed how the fighting went, and if it did, it didn't change enough to notice. And they all have the same roll and double tap to run. How I hate double tapping to run. The roll also doesn't seem to be a dodge roll, which I found kind of odd. There is a story already in place. A long time after the battle of the last crown, an evil witch is now looking for that powerful crown that was hidden away, and our hero Lillian comes across a brave knight who has lost their memory but is still determined to protect the kingdom. So off they go to do just that. I really like the art style and the color palette chosen for playing on a Game Boy Color or compatible system. It looks really nice, and actually like it was developed for the system, and like I could have bought this in the late 90s, and I mean that in the best way. Last Crown Warriors is using the hardware well, and is one heavy shot of nostalgia. The music also is great so far, nice and upbeat, that classic Game Boy sound, and wonderfully energetic. It keeps you grooving and wanting to push forward in the level, so it's doing its job at the moment. I can't wait to hear more of it. As of right now, the Kickstarter has a little less than 1 month to go, but it has already blown through its goal, which means it's shooting for stretch goals at this time. With the original goal completed, they plan to give the game a full-featured story mode that leads to an epic conclusion. There's also some stretch goals like link cable support for multiplayer, a manga to tell the story, and more RPG elements added to the game, like character levels, a shop, and hidden items. You can back the game for just the ROM that includes early access, a physical edition, or a 2 soundtrack and ROM bundle. The biggest bundles and special editions are already gone, unfortunately, so if you want a physical cartridge with a box, a manual, and a collector's coin, I would act quickly before those are gone too. They are limited to only 200 for this initial Kickstarter run. They're being published by First Press Games, which has put out some high-quality titles and is putting out the other recent indie Game Boy darling, Good Boy Galaxy, for the Game Boy Advance. Last Crown Warriors is currently slated to release in early 2024 though, so don't expect to get this one in your mailbox anytime soon. It doesn't surprise me, the basic concept is here, but the demo being as short as it is a bit concerning. There are other characters and levels in the videos and images in the Kickstarter, so things are obviously well underway. But as always with any crowdfunding campaign, take caution when backing it. So that's it for Last Crown Warriors. I love the idea for it and was immediately addicted to the gameplay, and I'm all in for this one and can't wait for my physical edition. I'll be watching the updates on this one very closely. Thanks so much for watching this shorter episode of RetroActive, and as always, see you next time. Hey, this is Kevin. Once again, thank you so much for watching another episode of RetroActive. Please hit that like button, subscribe, all the things it's supposed to say, and I do want to remind you that I do have a Patreon and a Discord. Links will be in the description. Have a wonderful day.